Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 57. Satyajit murdered, the jewel returned. Text number 35. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pujayit vabhibhasyainam. Pujayit bhavibhasyainam. Katayitva priya kataha. Katayitva priya kataha. Vigyata kila chitagya. Vigyata kila chitagya. Smayamana uvachaha. Smayamana uvachaha. Nanu dana pate nyastas. Nanu dana pate nyastas. Trayaste satadandvanaha. Trayaste satadandvanaha. Shamantako manai Shriman. Shamantako mani Shrinam mam. Vidita purvameva naha. Vidita purvameva naha. Pujaya tvabhibhasyainam. Katayitva priya kataha. Vigyata kila chitagya. Smayamana uvachaha. Nanu dana pate nyastas. Tvayaste satadandvana. Shamantako mani Shriman. Viditaha purvam evanaha. Pujaya vitabhasyainam. Katayitva priya kataha. Vigyata kila chitagya. Smayamana uvachataha. Nanu dana pate nyastas. Vayaste tatsatadandvana. Shamantako manai Shriman. Viditaha purvam evanaha. Eva Vigyata kila chitagya smaya mana vachava anapatenyantas patanganaha anantako manhe shriman vidita purvamevana. Ladies, pujayitva bhirtasyainam kata priyatva priyakataha vijagatila chitakya sayamana Nanudana patenyastas Tvayaste shatadandana Samantako manishriman Vidita purvamevana Pujayitva, honoring. Abhyasya, greeting. Enam, him, Akrura. Katayitva, discussing. Priyaha, pleasant. Kataha, topics. Vigyata, fully aware. Akila, of everything. Chitta, Akrura's heart. Gyaha, knowing. Smayamanaha, smiling. Uvachaha, he said. Nanu, surely. Dhana, of charity. Pate, O master. Nyastaha, kept. Tvayi, in your care. Aste, is present. Satadanavan, by Satadanva. Shamantaka mani, the Shamantaka jewel. Shriman, opulent. Viditaha, known. Purvam, beforehand. Eva, indeed. Naha, by us. Translation. Lord Krishna honored Akrura, greeted him confidentially, and spoke pleasant words with him. Then the Lord, who was fully aware of Akrura's heart by virtue of his being the knower of everything, smiled and addressed him. O Master of Charity, surely the opulent Shamantaka jewel was left in your care by Satadanva and is still with you. Indeed, we have known this all along. Purport. Lord Krishna's treatment of Akrura confirms that he's actually a great devotee of the Lord. Text number 37. Satrajito napatyatvad griniyur dhatu shutaha dhyam nini yapaha pindan vimuchyarnam cha seshitam. Translation. Since Satyajit had no sons, his daughter's sons should receive his inheritance. They should pay for memorial offerings of water and pinda, clear their grandfather's outstanding debts, and keep the remainder of the inheritance for themselves. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami quotes the following Smriti injunction regarding inheritance. Patni duhi taras chaiva pitaro rataras tata tatsada gotrajai bandhu sishu sa brahmacharinaha. Quote, the inheritance goes first to the wife, then, if the wife has passed away, to the daughters, then to the parents, then to the brothers, then to the brothers' sons, then to family members of the same gotra as the deceased, and then to his disciples, including brahmacharis. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti adds that since Satyajit had no sons, since his wives were killed together with him, and since his daughter Satyabhama was not interested in the Shamantaka jewel, which constituted the inheritance, it rightfully belonged to her sons. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada explains, Lord Krishna indicated by this statement that Satyabhama was already pregnant and her son would be the real claimant of the jewel and would certainly take the jewel from Akrura if he tried to conceal it. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmiditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Gadim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. So, the pastime of the Lord and the Shamantaka jewel. So here we see that Akrura has come before the Lord. Now Akrura is a devotee, and his intentions of the jewel, having the jewel, were always meant that the jewel should be for Krishna. But we see that Akrura got involved in a lot of intrigue. He was part of the conspiracy to kill Satyajit, along with Satadhanva. So that's a very unfortunate situation. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that one should always be careful not to get thrown into unfortunate situations. An unfortunate situation in this instant came about for Akrura, who was a devotee. His intention to bring Krishna and Balaram from Vrindavan to Mathura was just that he would have their darshan and he would meet them. But unbeknownst to him, bringing the two brothers, Krishna and Balaram, from Vrindavan upset a lot of Brijbasis. They're already upset. They were pleading, don't take. But he took. So he displeased the devotees. He upset the devotees. And that was the result. That's why he got involved in this Shamantaka jewel problem. But Krishna knew his heart. It's not like Satadhanva, who he killed for killing Satyajit. Akrura's intention is that the jewel should be with Krishna and for Krishna. So Krishna knew that, and therefore when he dealt with Akrura, here we see that he was very gentle and kind and glorified Akrura as the master of charity, right? In front of Krishna, no one is the master of anything, right? Krishna is the master of everything, master of all the mystics. What to speak of those Dan Danawalas, those people who give in charity. Nobody can match Krishna. But still, he gave Akrura that compliment, being the master of charity. So, in dealing with devotees, one has to be extremely careful. And this is the example that we have, that even though Akrura was a devotee, because he offended especially the gopis and the cowherd boys in Vrindavan by taking Krishna and Balaram away from Vrindavan, he had to undergo so much problems. Therefore, the devotee mentality is always very cautious in dealing with devotees. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, as part of our morning program, jointly we all offer obeisances to one another by saying, Vancha kalpa trubhyascha kripa sindhu vaeva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. So that's to alleviate any offenses that knowingly or unknowingly a devotee during the day may have committed to another devotee, and keep the community very free from inauspiciousness. Offending a devotee brings about inauspiciousness, can bring about so many problems. We have the story of the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, even though he was the emperor of the 7 Dvipas, the 7 continents. He was the emperor. So just imagine how powerful he was. And even though he was the emperor of the whole world, Maharaj Ambarish was a great devotee of the Lord. He was completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord. He always kept his mind fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. And he used his words in describing the glories of the Lord. Maharaj Ambarish, although very, very opulent, he walked every day to the temple, and he used his arms in sweeping the temple. Right? So this was the mood of Maharaj Ambarish, that he didn't feel, although he was the, Sarvapati, he was the master of everyone, he felt that the Lord was the master, and that all the opulence was the opulence of the Lord, not his opulence. Right? He was unattached to his elephants and his horses and his soldiers. And he all saw them as the Lord's, belonging to the Lord. Nowadays, rich people don't have elephants. They don't have horses. Right? They have Mercedes cars, BMWs, Audis. Right? People judge a person's wealth by the car that they drive. Right? If you're in a wagon R, itna nahi hai. But if you're in BMW, then unke paas hai. But in those days, wealth was measured by elephant. Even a rich man can't keep an elephant today. And Maharaj Ambarish had unlimited elephants. But still he was detached from them all. Elephants are such an opulence. Even to this day, in Gudavayur, they, in the evening, when the Lord goes to take rest, he comes out on the top of an elephant, and he goes around the temple, and they light 1,008 lamps. And the Lord comes out, and they play music, and then he goes and takes rest. Huh? Keeping an elephant's not an easy thing. But still, Maharaj Ambarish, he was detached from all of these things. Why? Because he was fixed in the Lord. He was fixed in hearing about the Lord, describing the glories of the Lord. And all the people in the kingdom, they were similarly situated. So in his kingdom, everything was working very nicely because he was a devotee, and he saw to it that all the people were devotees. So no difficulties. But he was performing austerities for the pleasure of Krishna. He was performing the Ekadasi Brat. And the Lord is very pleased when Ekadasi is followed by his devotees. So for the pleasure of the Lord, Ambarish Maharaj was following Ekadasi. And he had followed this Brat for a whole year. And just then came to visit him was Durvasa Muni, a great sage, Durvasa, a very powerful mystic yogi, came to meet Maharaj Ambarish. So Maharaj Ambarish met him very gracefully and invited him to take prasadam. So Durvasa Muni, being greeted very nicely, accepted the invitation and went to the Jamuna. This was happening in Vrindavan. He went to the Jamuna to perform his duties, taking bath, etc. Just at that time, the king realized that it was time to break the fast. Right? Just like when we follow Ekadasi, next day there's the pardon. There's a time between this time to this time you should break the fast. So that was coming near. But what to do? He had a guest. The courtesy is you don't eat before your guest. Guest should eat first. So what to do? He consulted the Brahmins. So they were giving him various advices. And he decided that, okay, taking water is not eating and is eating at the same time. Can be considered either way. Srila Prabhupada said, eating fruit and taking water doesn't break a fast. But anyway, he decided to take a little water to break a fast. Now Durvasa, because he was a great mystic, he understood that, oh, this king has taken something before his guest. So when he came, considering himself a Brahmin and considering himself a great mystic yogi, he began to chastise Ambarish Maharaj very heavily. Sometimes mystics and they can do that. They can become very heavy. And he wanted to teach Maharaj Ambarish a lesson. But what he didn't know was that Maharaj Ambarish was so dear to Krishna that he had given him his Sudarshan Chakra for protection. The devotees of the Lord are protected by the Lord. Right? So, although Durvasa Muni conjured up a huge demon, a very fierce demon, by just taking one hair out of his head and throwing it on the ground. He had a trident and sharp teeth and copper eyes, and he was like fire. So Durvasa his intention was to kill Ambarish Maharaj. This demon should kill him. So Ambarish Maharaj was undisturbed. He was thinking of the Lord. No tension. Hare, if somebody says something to us, we get tension. Right? Hare, क्या बात करते हैं? मानो में हम कौन हैं? कैसे बात करते हैं? Right? Tension. But Ambarish, no tension. Absolutely free from tension. How is it possible? Because he was absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. He was absorbed in meditation on the Lord, samadhi. The demon was immediately killed by the Sudarshan chakra. Vanquished, finished, within a second. Just see how the Lord protects his devotees. Huh? Even if the devotee is not so good at self-defense, the devotee needn't worry. Why? Because the Lord's there to protect him. The Lord protects the devotee. So then the Sudarshan chakra began to chase Durvasa, and he was in a real problem. Real problem. Because the Sudarshan chakra is so hot and so sharp and so fiery. He started to run away from the Sudarshan chakra. And he was thinking, who can save me? Who can save me? He went to Lord Brahma. Oh, Brahmaji, save me from the Sudarshan chakra. Lord Brahma said, that is the weapon of Vishnu. What can we do? At the end of this world, we have to wind up everything under the instruction of Vishnu. We don't have any power over him, what to speak of his Sudarshan chakra. So then Durvasa, he went to Lord Shiva in Kailash and begged him, save me from this fiery Sudarshan chakra. It was burning his back, closing in on him. Lord Shiva said, sorry, can't really help you. We have no power over this Sudarshan chakra. But maybe you should go to Lord Vishnu. That is the weapon of Vishnu. Certainly he can help you. So Durvasa Muni went to Vaikuntha. Just see, such a powerful mystic yogi. He could go to Vaikuntha. He went to Vaikuntha. He met Lord Vishnu. Huh? Save me. I know I made an offense to your devotee, Ambarish. Please save me from this. So Lord Vishnu instructed him. I don't know anything but my devotees, and my devotees don't know anything but me. Although I'm surrounded by Lakshmi, so much opulence, I'm only concerned about my devotees. I reside in the hearts of my devotees, and my devotees reside within my heart. I'm just like a chaste wife with her, and that controls her husband, right? Generally, a husband thinks he's in charge of everything, right? But we all know who's really in charge, right? And so, knowing the way things work, the system is that the wife becomes very chaste to the husband, and has this mood of service to the husband, and in that way, she has all the chubbies. Unke paas chubby hai. But in modern civilization, things have become a little bit confused, right? In modern civilization, they encourage the girls to compete with the husband, be equal with the husband. And this is creating a lot of difficulties in the world today. Right? So even for a marriage to work, they have to consult the knowledge that's there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And here's the Supreme Lord giving this example to Durvasa. And he says, just like a chaste woman controls her husband by being submissive and chaste, in the same way, because my devotees are so submissive and so devoted to me, I'm controlled by them. So in this way, I can't really help you. I can't help you. You'll have to go to my devotee and beg his forgiveness. And then Durvasa did that. He went to Ambarish Maharaj, who was still standing in the same place after 1 year, waiting for Durvasa to come so that he could serve him, right? Still waiting there. And he's begging, help me, I offended you, forgive me. And Ambarish was very, very kind, right? And he said, don't worry at all. Figure mat karo. And he preached the Sudarshan Chakra. He told the Sudarshan Chakra, please leave this Brahmin. Right? The Brahmins are so important in this society, he preached. You just leave him. So in that way, Durvasa Muni was delivered from the heat of the Sudarshan Chakra. Ambarish Maharaj didn't have any ill feelings. And how could he do that? How is it possible for Ambarish to be free from any bad feelings against Durvasa after what he had done? Right? Tried to kill him. And the secret is because he was fully absorbed in the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo. His mind was fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. So, as devotees of Krishna, our intention should be to fix our minds. The mind is a very distracted thing, can distract us to many different things. In Bhagavad-gita, the mind says that the mind can be your friend or it can be your worst enemy. The mind that is trained to think of Krishna will be our friend. But the same mind, if it's distracting us by so many other things, just think about it during the day. How many things the mind reflects on and takes us this way and that way, especially with this. Right? This way, that way, so many ways. So the mind needs to be trained. And the mind can be trained. And then the mind, when it takes us to think of Krishna or reminds us about our duty, that is very good. Right? We have a duty. What is that duty? The duty is that we don't take birth again in this material world. Right? We go back to the spiritual world. We try to do things for the pleasure of Krishna and for the pleasure of Krishna's devotee. So there are many services that one can do for the pleasure of Krishna. And these are like an austerity, right? To cook nice preparations for the pleasure of Krishna, to rise up early in the morning, take bath and go to Mangala arati, right? To dress Krishna nicely and make nice garlands for the Lord. These are and certainly there's some difficulty in all of these things, right? But the devotee doesn't see it as difficulty. He sees it with pleasure because it's for the pleasure of the Lord. Just like a mother, she's cleaning up the stool of the child, but she doesn't see that as a problem, right? Out of love for the child, it's just like sandalwood paste for her. In the same way, what the materialist will see as difficulty, the devotee of the Lord sees it as a great pleasure. So one of the services that a devotee can do for the pleasure of the Lord is to spread the message of the Lord. The Lord has His message for all the conditioned living souls in the material world. so that they may become elevated gradually and come back to Him. The Lord is very much interested that everyone not stay here in the material world, but join with Him in the spiritual world. And therefore He came, He spoke the Bhagavad-gita, which are His instructions for the conditioned souls to become elevated. He performed His pastimes, like this pastime in the Krishna book that we're reading, the Shamantaka jewel, right? He performed this pastime so that the devotees can hear about the Lord and remember the Lord and how the Lord is wonderful and how the Lord protects His devotees. So, preaching the message of the Lord, how best to do that? Well, Srila Prabhupada has given us the best way to do that, and that is by distributing his books, by giving people the best preacher, right? One time, Drishtadumna came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I want to give you a report of my preaching activities. And Prabhupada said, no, I am preaching, you're assisting. So we're all assisting Srila Prabhupada in his preaching, right? Srila Prabhupada has the loving relationship with Krishna. And we're introducing people to Krishna's pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, by distributing these books. They're getting an opportunity to associate with Krishna's pure devotee through his instructions. And what instructions he's giving are the same instructions that Krishna is giving. No adulteration, no change. Right? And therefore it's effective. When people come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's books, they're coming in direct contact with Lord Krishna's instructions. And by reading that, they become benefited. They come to the point of surrendering to Krishna. And what is that surrender? The surrender is that they chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. So this is a very wonderful pastime of Krishna, the Samantaka jewel. One thing besides learning that we have to be careful in dealing with devotees, not to offend devotees. We also have to be careful in relationship to opulences, material opulences. People were becoming bewildered by the Shamantaka jewel because it gave great opulence. So the devotees of the Lord, the devotees like the 6 Goswamis, they were living under trees. And they just had one kopan and loincloth. And they were chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. So Prabhupada said, we can do our devotional service under a tree. We don't need opulent temples. We don't need it. Right? But if we just chant under a tree, we'll be alone there under the tree. Nobody's going to come, right? So for the purpose of preaching, Srila Prabhupada made this temple, this Juhu temple, and gave a nice, beautiful marble temple for SriSriRadhaRasbihari for preaching purposes. Right? But we have to be careful. Opulence is meant for the pleasure of Krishna and for preaching purposes. It's not meant for our own aggrandizement. If we become bewildered by opulences, and Krishna will give opulences in many ways. You become a good speaker. You can become famous and have many followers, right? So many different opulences can come along. But just as Maharaj Ambarish whatever opulence was there, he recognized nirmama, not mine. They're his opulences and meant to be used in his service. If we always have that mentality, then we'll never become bewildered, and we'll be able to peacefully engage in the devotional service of the Lord, so that at the end of this life, we can go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for very nicely, ecstatically describing Ambarish Maharaj's pastime. It is so nice to hear once again. Also, very nice pastime you explained, you described Prabhupada's pastime, how he is preaching. There is another pastime. Initial days, Prabhupada told that everybody to write articles for BTG. And they were writing. And then one day, one devotee approached Prabhupada. Prabhupada, can you also write some articles? Prabhupada said, are you writing whatever you heard from me? They said, yeah, whatever we heard from you. That means I am only writing.
Prabhupada's the preacher.
Yeah. I have one question.
Yeah.
Actually, Akrura, he was following his orders from Kamsa to bring Krishna and Balaram. And then Krishna and Balaram, they were willingly going to Mathura. But still, he is not even aware that he is committing offense. He took them because that was his duty.
Well, he didn't really so much worried about what Kamsa wanted so much as he saw it as an opportunity to meet Krishna and Balaram. He said, okay, he would like to see them, so he went. He didn't really understand the ramifications of what he was doing, right? And therefore he incurred the abhishap of the devotees of Braj.
My question is, in ISKCON we are interacting with so many devotees, then I have my own mental problems and all. So how to avoid committing offenses under such circumstances where one is every day meeting dealing with the devotees, then I want to do service in a particular way and then somebody wants to do service in another way, then there is a clash. Then does it
well, it's not so much difficulty. I mean, it's not, there'll be clashes. It's not really an offense to have clashes. But the clashes should be resolved on the basis of what's good for the pleasure of Krishna and Krishna's devotee. So just because there's clashes doesn't necessarily be seen as a daksha yajna or something. But it's an opportunity for the devotees to work things out for the pleasure of Krishna, even though there's some disagreement, by being flexible and compromising, and so that, in the end, Srila Prabhupada and Krishna are pleased. So it's really an opportunity. The problem comes in, what really becomes offensive is when devotees give up following the four regulative principles, they stop chanting their rounds. This is the real offense that retards the growth in devotional service. Because that's offensive to Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, it becomes the hati mata, the elephant offense. And that's why we, in the morning, again, as I mentioned in the class, we offer obeisances to one another for any, inadvertent mistakes that we made during the day. So you only need to do that once. Sometimes there's this tendency that you offer obeisances, we all do it together, and then the devotees again go around and offer obeisances again to different people. Now there's no need to do that, It just creates, after we offer obeisances, we're chanting our rounds, right? So people are coming up and offering obeisances, and somebody thinks, oh, he offered obeisances to him, he didn't offer obeisances to me, and all these things come into mind. So we just do it all together one time. Vancha kalpa trubhyascha, kripa sindhuvevacha, patitanam bhavanebhyo. And bus, that's enough. Then chant, do the next thing that we do. Right? Yes, Hanuman Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have 2 comments. One is, once one devotee offered me obeisances. He said, Prabhuji, please accept my obeisances. And I said, yes, I will. Then his expectation was I should pay obeisances to him. But I did not pay. I said, Prabhu, you say accept, I accepted. Then he said, Prabhuji, Paramatma is also in my heart. You pay obeisances back to me. And then I said, yes, Prabhu, I will pay obeisances. And I say, Vancha kalpata obeisance and pay obeisances. I said, don't pay any more obeisances to me, never, next time. Thank you for him. And then second comment is that...
so that's a question or just a statement?
This comment.
It's a comment. Okay.
And one more comment is, the Akrura was in full knowledge that Krishna and Balram, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he killed the Kesi, Aghasur, Bakasur, so many demons in the childhood only. So if Krishna comes, there will be no problem. Easily he will kill to the Kansa. So he was not afraid to bring Krishna and Balaram to the Mathura. Yeah.
He wasn't afraid, absolutely. He was very happy to have their association and darshan of the Lord.
Yes.
And he knew that Kamsa couldn't do anything to them. He was confident about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everybody in Vrindavan didn't like it. And if somebody offers obeisances to you out of a respect and out of a courtesy, you should return your obeisances. That's the humility that we were taught.
Hare Krishna. Bhima Prabhu, thank you very much for the nice class. I had one quick question. The place you talked about where the elephant goes for the pleasure of the Lord, where is that?
Guruvayur. It's in Kerala. Guruvayur. There's a deity there, very old deity, very, very old deity, that after Krishna left the planet, there was a deity that was worshipped there by Vasudeva and Devaki, a four-armed form of Krishna. So they gave that deity to Vayu and to Brihaspati to find a nice place for the deity. So they looked all over and they found this place in Kerala that's called Guruvayur. And there Lord Shiva was sitting. So they thought this is a very good place. Vayu and Brihaspati, Guruvayur. So then they requested Lord Shiva to give this place so that the deity could be established there and worshipped. And he said, okay, I'll give my place, provided that everyone that comes for darshan of this deity, of Krishna, that they also have my darshan. So that's the system. People go and have darshan. It's called the Krishna Mat of Guruvayur. They call it Guruvayur Appa. And then they have darshan. It's complete when they have darshan of Lord Shiva. And they have many wonderful rituals there, but one of them is that in the night before the Lord rests, he comes out on a huge elephant. I mean, the elephant is huge. The elephant is like as high as the rim of that Vyasa, Prabhupada's Vyasa. Big, huge tuskers. And they have many of them. And they decorate them nicely with golden ornaments. And then Krishna comes out and they play Nagaswaram and go around the temple. And then the Lord takes rest. opulence, opulent place. Mike, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I have two questions, Prabhuji. One question on priority basis for myself in regards to Ramru Prabhu question. So many times I had this experience in outside, friendship with the people. In the name of friendship, just gossip happens outside. Even while we come to in the association of devotees, many times prajalpa only happens in the name of friendship among the devotees. I understand the principles from Nectar of Devotion, that 6 principles, friendship among devotees, giving gifts, sharing secrets, sharing prasadam. But apart from that, to cultivate the friendly relationship among the devotees, Maitri, do you have some suggestions? So much we try, I personally trying, but still many times it doesn't get maintained.
Keep trying. If you don't succeed, try again. Bring the conversation around to things related to service, things related to pushing forward the Krishna consciousness movement, and try to interject some direct Krishna katha. No harm. There was a devotee named Radhakund, a Prabhupada disciple, and he used to only like to talk about Krishna. So he had a button, and the button said, "You can ask me about Krishna." And so if you try to talk about Krishna, even with your friends, even with your associates, they'll appreciate it. Why not? They're devotees. Devotees like to hear about Krishna. And if they don't appreciate it, well, they'll go away. Right? So you can try that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I will try working on it more. I'll keep trying. Second question, Prabhuji. You said regarding opulence, that Ambarish Maharaj was so exalted that he was detached in that mood because he has attachment for Krishna's lotus feet.
Yes.
On practical ground for the Grihasthas, even though they have that attachment for Krishna, the deities in the temple, services, but still on practical ground, children's health issues, house loan, EMI. So there are many things which are waiting ahead.
But children's health issues, children belong to Krishna. They're not my children. Those children belong to Krishna. And taking care of children, Prabhupada said, is like, for the wife, it's like taking care of the deities. Because they're the future of Krishna consciousness, the progeny. And therefore, they should be nicely taken care of. That's also a duty. That's also devotional service. But the householder should see that these children are not mine, but they belong to Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, whatever I have, this house, these children, they're all yours, and I'm simply your manager. They belong to you. So Ambarish had that sense. Although he was maintaining the empire, doing his duty as the emperor, still the mentality was everything, all opulence belongs to him. So it doesn't have to be contradictory.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you talk about we should be cautious about opulence. So, regarding this, initially the devotee will be cautious, but later, especially talking about mobile, so later he accustomed to that, and he gradually compromised with his sadhana, and he able to know that if we ask to him, he said that, okay Prabhuji, we are doing for seva only now. So he says like that. So how to safeguard in all movements while using opulence?
You see, everything should be used in the service of Krishna. But if you find that, just like the gopis and their loving relationships with Krishna, and that's like the highest level of Krishna consciousness. And to hear about the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis is very purifying. But if you're not elevated enough and you become agitated by hearing the pastimes, then Prabhupada said, stop. Don't hear the pastimes. So we have to be the judge of our own. We have to be able to take your temperature. If by having mobile, being in touch with devotees for the purpose of service, that's okay. But if you find yourself being diverted, the mind is so tricky, diverting us, then better you give up the mobile. Keep the simple one. Sometimes the smartphones, they're too smart. And we need a dumb phone so we don't become dumb. That we have to judge ourselves. You have to be able to take your own temperature and know when you are being diverted from Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.